Hey, what's up, everybody? The V Club here, coming to you with another video. And that's what it's all about. It's about anything and everything. And so today I wanted to talk about the aftermath of the Trump re-election for the win. And, you know, what led to the win. And primarily, this is going to be more of a Kamala video focused on why she lose, right? And, and even after the fact, it took her a while just to concede to you know the election, but she did it, and everything about what she did has been wrong. All right, throughout this whole time. All right, so let's look at everything in perspective. Right, for example, how Democrats is not about democracy. All right, because when it came time to start, re-election campaigning, right? They instantly and automatically propped up Joe Biden, right? And when they propped up Joe Biden, right, they didn't run a primary. They didn't really do anything. They just went ahead and we'll call it the Democratic machine, right? Everybody calls it the machine, the blue state, right? Deep blue state, because everything that they've done, it's all under the guise of Obama, Pelosi, under the wing of them, right? It's a collective of elite Democrats. So Obama, Pelosi are like the main two, you know, I guess you could say of the at the head of that, blue state, deep blue state, the machine, if you want to call it that, right? As everybody calls it, and they didn't do things democratically. They don't do things democratically. Just like you go back to 2016 when Bernie Sanders actually, won fairly through the primary, but they still went ahead and sidestepped him and went with Hillary Clinton, even though she didn't clearly win. And two things came out of that, right? One, they thought, I was thinking they didn't want Bernie because of age, and I mean when you look at it, he looks, from what do you call it, you know, just just old, and the appeal of having the first, female president, right? She was a Clinton, all that stuff. Oh man, I mean, it couldn't have been a better story, right? To tell the world and tell America and all that. So that's why they propped her up. And then, of course, she's garbage anyways, and nobody wants another Clinton in office, and so that's why she lost to Trump on Trump's first uh, term there. So fast forward to now, the Democratic machine kept churning. Say, hey, Biden, since he beat Trump before, and he's the only one who could make that claim that I'm the only one that could beat Trump. It all kind of came together. All right, he's going to be the guy, even though they didn't run a real fair Democratic primary to kind of just feel it out, right? Because maybe someone wanted change, and when you really look at the track record of Biden, I mean, it wasn't really all that great. I mean, he's one of the lowest approval rating in terms of presidency, one of the lowest, if not the lowest, in the history of the United States. So that's telling, right? But they still went ahead with that plan because he's already in office. He's the only one that can beat Trump because he's done it before, right? In a close election. So they ran with Biden. Problem is that besides a terrible track record with border crisis, inflation, all kinds of crap, right? Losing, not even gaining jobs. If anything, he gained jobs back that was lost during the pandemic. But when you look at like net job increases, there wasn't really much to it. Even in the past year, they had to really, you know, edit what they put out there in terms of numbers, and it was actually minimal to net loss of jobs, right? And so, as they've done throughout this whole term of this Biden Harris administration, they ended up just printing money. That's all they've been doing, just printing money, handouts. Let's do these programs. Let's give everything to illegals. Let's keep, well, we're going to do this program for the homeless. We're going to do this program for the communities. We're going to forgive loans and all that. All right, all these things just to kind of buy support and buy votes and all that stuff and support this Democratic machine, right? And so everything about it sucked, all right? And then Biden's health has been a concern for a very long time because people have been seeing how he hasn't been quite there, right? And all the missteps, all the mishaps, everything that they try to cover up with Biden, and Kamala saying, "Oh, he's as sharp as a tack. I've been into every meeting, and he's always, one of the last to leave the meeting, and I'm always one of the last to sit there with him when it comes to decisions, because she is also, on record as being one of the probably the largest in terms of collection of tie-breaking votes for a vice president in the history of the United States. That shows you how partisan the recent government was, but she was a tie-breaking vote each and every time in favor of course, Democrats, right? And so it just led to more and more issues within the United States that it was just a terrible path to just destruction, and it was slowly unraveling. And the whole thing about it was we need to change, right? And so, the change occurred with Trump saying, "Hey, I'm back." But again, their strategy of trying to attack Trump, they're trying to, do everything they can to lock him up. They come up with all these frivolous lawsuits. They're trying to use the weaponization of the Department of Justice, right? All these blue states trying to, go after Trump for all these various, ridiculous lawsuits to try to lock him up, which is, again, weaponizing government to lock up your opponent in order to try to win, right? So they're trying to take advantage of this democratic, progressive government or administration that we have in this government, in trying to push that agenda, even though they won't admit it. But everybody can see it. Right? Everybody's seeing everything. All right, and so one by one, right, the lawsuits were failing. All right, I think they only upheld one. Right, and it was a matter of if he was to succeed to win the election, Trump that is, then he would be able to, I guess, sidestep any sort of pending lockup issue that he may fall into, especially with what New York was trying to push in terms of indicting him on all these different counts and found him guilty on all counts. So they were trying to push and push and push to lock him up. Didn't work. And a lot of the other lawsuits were thrown out. All right. So I think, if anything, only one held up, which was the New York one with Letitia James here. So you have that. But the thing is, though, Trump continued on, right? He continued on. Meanwhile, Joe Biden was exposed. He was exposed to, how bad he was. He just, during the debate, that's where he was really exposed It was just a fumbling of words, and you know, you could tell he was just losing it. All right. So the campaign donors on the Democrats, which is the Hollywood elites and all these different elites, right? Um, they say, hey, we're going to pull our money out unless you replace Biden. Biden needs to go, right? So that's when the machine started cranking, and again, they didn't run a primary. They could have ran a short primary, but again, they didn't, and decided to prop up Kamala just because she's vice president. She's the extension of Biden in a sense. And plus, all the funding that went into the campaigning of Biden could transfer to her. That was the only logical way to go. So, was she the best qualified candidate? Probably not. I mean, maybe only because of status. But when you look at all the other Democrats that could have possibly been better, like Shapiro out of Pennsylvania primarily, people say Gavin Newsom, no way. All right, Tim Walz, no way. But she didn't want somebody to overshadow her at the same time. That's why Walz was picked as the vice president. Um, but that's going ahead a little bit here. So they propped her up. The machine started cranking, and they were saying, "Oh, this is all about joy and feeling good and all that stuff." While herself has no track record of anything doing positive, and she was appointed border czar, doing all this crap, and she did nothing. Right? Even as recent as the hurricanes, she was trying to act like she's doing something in Florida, and DeSantis in Florida was like, "Yeah, you've never been a part of any of these things, and all of a sudden you're trying to throw yourself in the mix like you're trying to do something." In a sense, he wanted to say, "Get the fuck out of here." That's what he was trying to say. But of course, you got to be, professional about it. But in his mind, he was thinking, "You're trying to throw yourself in the mix here and act like you're doing something. Get the fuck out of here, man. Go kick rocks." So that's what DeSantis was really thinking. Just couldn't say it, right? And so, and then of course, you know, with this whole border crisis stuff, right? That you see right here, floods are now flooding New York, floods of them. It's funny because they're threatening at the beginning of the year, right? They're trying to really push hard on this bipartisan border bill that still allowed illegal immigration to come in through the border to a limit of 5,000 a day. Amnesty, in a sense, it was an amnesty bill, really deep undercover amnesty bill, and it was just bad. That's the reason why Republicans didn't vote for it and didn't want to vote for it, even though they blame everything was about blame Trump, blame Trump, blame Trump, right? So you look at all that, all right. So Biden still went ahead and put in an executive order to stop the flow of illegals coming in through the border, and of course it worked, right? Because he was threatening that he had his hands are tied, he can't do nothing, even though Trump did it before with executive orders. So everybody was saying, if Trump did it before, why can't you do it now? Because they were trying to push to get this border bill signed, and nobody fell for it. And so Biden still went ahead and did the executive order. And then they're trying to say, oh, this is the lowest flow of immigration since, even less than Trump has, during his time in office, even less has come through the border now. It's like, but do you hear yourself talking that over the first 3 years of the presidency, you let in over 10 million illegals into the country? But of course, they don't admit that. They just sidestep that and be like, yeah, look, we have the lowest this year, right? And it's like, one thing, Democrats are a bunch of clowns, all right? When they sidestep, when they deflect, when they blame others, and that's what they've been doing this whole time, throughout this whole administration and all that. DEI hires with Karine Jean-Pierre. Kamala's a DEI hire. Whether you want to admit it or not, she's a DEI hire. Biden only chose her only because she was a non-white female, right? She is of you know of ethnic descent. All right, arguable. Indian descent. Arguable. She's black. I don't think she's black. She's Jamaican, but they claim that as black. But um, when you look at what she is, DEI hire straight up. Even Joe Biden admitted she was a DEI hire. Um, he just didn't say DEI, all right, straight up like that. But in his speech on why he chose Kamala, at the beginning of the campaigning when Biden was campaigning, it was because of DEI. It was a strategy because a female to appeal to the females, abortion, ethnic descent, right? I mean, it fits, it checks all the boxes of DEI, which was what they've been doing this whole time, anyways, with the Democrats pushing this agenda of DEI, defunding police, doing all this crap. And she wasn't qualified when there's plenty of others that were more qualified to do the job better. All right. So now you go back to the campaigning now that she's been campaigning and all that. It's all about joy. It's all about bullshit. Hollywood elites were backing her. And you can start seeing the divide, right? The divide was elites following her. And they kind of pushed out the working class, right? They were replacing the working class with illegals, right? While they were pushing out the working class and the Americans. That's what they straight up did. Working class is, it could be middle income, low income Americans, and they're displacing those Americans with these illegals and doing everything they can with the illegals, giving them everything that they want and need. Doesn't matter who is coming in, they were just displacing, whether it's the Hispanics and that are already here, the blacks that are already here, when they started pushing the illegals into those communities, right? So it's evident that what they were doing, all right, they had the elites with the illegals, pushing out the, middle class, the working class people, and then you wonder why things are so bad because they just keep handing out, forgiving loans, and again, it made America in a poor place, right? So you have the working class feeling like, wow, like Democrats were never like this. That's why they lost the union support. That's why they lost a lot of support throughout all kinds of different support they've had in the past. They didn't have this time around when it came to print media, all those newspapers not supporting Democrats anymore, the unions not supporting Democrats anymore. You're starting to see that divide, right? And it was clear that their agenda was just going to be a continuation of the Biden administration because she had no clear, policy. She had nothing really clear, right, about anything that really showed that she's going to be different from Biden. And everybody says that the clip of when she was on The View, where she spoke about, was there anything different that you would do from Biden? And she said she wouldn't change a thing. There would be nothing different that she would have done. That right there was probably what killed everything that she was trying to build up on, because there was not one time she was critical of Biden's policies. If she was supposed to be the change candidate and turn the page candidate, she definitely didn't show that. So yeah, everything about everything has been a fail. And so I mean, it was just stupid to see Hollywood elites and celebrities and all, saying, "Oh yeah, she's just so joyful to be to have as a candidate." And it's like, okay, but what does that really do? You know. But yeah, so that was a telling time. But then when she started to really talk about some of the things she wanted to do, to me, it should have been a turnoff, and I think that's what it was. It was a turnoff. She was flip flopping on issues like fracking, you know, the border wall. It was one years back. Oh, it's a vanity project. It's it's discriminatory. Blah blah blah. Fracking. Oh no, we can't do that because we have the Green New Deal. Oh no, I'm not against fracking. I'm open to that. To I'm opposed to fracking. And the one thing that I don't know if anybody caught that, but throughout the time, she's always said, with all the flip flopping, she's always said her values haven't changed. To me, when she says my values haven't changed, she's going to stick by what she's always done, which is she's not, she's for open borders, so no wall. She's against fracking because she's about the Green New Deal. She's all these, transgender stuff. All this stuff that she keeps flip flopping on and trying to act like she's a moderate and all this other crap. Um, Her values haven't changed. So with all the flip flopping, all the lying, you could say, where she acts like she's trying to be supportive of something when she really isn't, right? That all that stuff, her values haven't changed. That to me was telling that all right, yeah, she's going to just continue this progressive agenda. I think even worse further out. I mean, when you really think about it, it would have been worse than Biden right now, because with all the uh, taxing on unrealized capital gains, like think about that. Nobody will want to invest money because the minute you gain money, you're going to get taxed, even though you didn't cash it out yet. I mean, how ridiculous is that? And you don't want to frack when we have loads of oil that can be produced and drilled across the shores of the United States, and we're constantly importing, and we wonder why gas prices are high. You're trying to go through this, uh, Green New Deal bullshit, right? Where you can't use gas, you can't use natural gas, everything has to be electric. All this shit, all that shit needs to go out the window. And nobody wants to buy $50,000, $100,000 electric cars that you got to sit and wait to charge for hours, and we don't even have an infrastructure to support this electric grid of all these electric cars and all that stuff. We don't even have the infrastructure for that. But yeah, they're trying to push for this shit, right? And trying to push gas out. Um, and we're paying more and more for gas, right? Which is like completely ridiculous. And so when you look at all that stuff, I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think people see it and they had enough of it. And so, and it goes on and on. We could be pulling oil from Alaska through the Keystone Pipeline, but yet they haven't repaired a damaged one. I think there's like two or three or four. I don't know how many of them, but there's one that's severely damaged that they haven't repaired, and they haven't had the oil flowing from that since that time. Imagine how we could be oil dependent, all right, or independent. Sorry, we could be oil independent. We could be exporting oil out there, bringing the cost of gas down, right? Um, there's so many different things we could be doing, but they're forcing everybody's hand because all they're doing is catering to the elites and catering to the illegals. But then what about us? You know, so people see that. People see that Trump was for the working class people. The unions were supporting him. He was getting support from Here, how about this? He was getting support from the Muslim and Jewish communities because here's another bad thing that was going on. We have been allies with Israel for ages. And when they got attacked by a militant terrorist group, Hamas, and I understand that yes, there's going to be victims with Gaza and Palestine, all right, in Gaza. The problem is, if you get attacked, you're going to fight back and try to hold people accountable. If there's going to be casualties, there's going to be casualties. I get it, but you can't have a terrorist organization running amok and let them run game without consequences. And that's what this progressive agenda has always been. They're not about consequences. They're all about, soft on everything. And that's why, we've had issues with crime and all that in the United States because they're soft on everything. So with this whole Hamas stuff, right? Hezbollah, all this crap that's going on, and Israel's almost have their hands tied because U.S. is is intervening too much and playing both sides. Oh yeah, we're supporting Israel to take care of business, and then all of a sudden, oh no no no, you can't attack the poor Palestinians. You gotta protect these people, and oh no no, you can't do that, and that's the problem that we've had too is that they're playing and catering to both sides, and Israel cannot finish their business. They're not really supporting Israel, which is primarily Jewish, right? And so, you know, what can they do, right? If their hands are tied with the Biden administration. Initially, they held back on weapon supplies, all that stuff, and then they ended up giving it to them. But yeah, funding these wars that shouldn't have been happening, right? Um, it wouldn't have been happening if we had better diplomatic relations from this administration. But they dropped the ball on that too. When Trump had better diplomatic relations, there was no wars, there was no crossing over borders and trying to acquire territory. None of this stuff was happening. But it happened on this one, right, with Joe Biden's presidency. So when you look at that and funding the wars for their efforts of being resistant, how's that going, right? Ukraine has their backs to the wall. It's backfiring, but we keep sending money there. Israel has their hands tied because you have Kamala and Joe have like playing both sides, and they can't do nothing. So you're wasting money over there for nothing in these places. Then you wonder why we're in trouble, right? If you're going back to student loan forgiveness, why are we doing that, right? There's no common sense of doing that. So when you look at all this stuff that's happening, again, people had enough. People just is over all this crap. Why are these illegals coming in and giving all this money and all these resources? And it's being said every day. We got homeless people, we got veterans, low income, right? People that's already been here, but yet they're not being, given anything. They're not being catered to. And then you wonder why we have problems. Soft on crime. I mean, there's a lot of problems that we have. And it needs to be changed. There's need to be change. There needs to be a fix. And so that's what happened here. And so, the campaigning of her blaming, blame Trump, blame Trump, blame Trump. Trump is is Hitler, and Nazi rallies and insults, right? Biden says, "Oh, he's trash," right? Trash. All the supporters are trash, and Clinton even said, "Hey, if they vetted the people coming in the border, it wouldn't have Lincoln Riley wouldn't have been murdered." He even said it out loud, and it's like, did you know you just said something that as a Democrat You shouldn't have said, but it's a common sense saying that, of course, you're supposed to vet people coming in, but they didn't. So that was a Freudian slip from Clinton. And then they pushed on trying to, you know, tell people that, oh, you're a bigot, you're a misogynist, you are, all these different things if you don't vote for Kamala, right? And it's like, so if you don't do these things, you are, they just insult you, right? And so that was the Democrats' strategy towards the end, was they're going to insult you because of you're not voting for her in all these different ways possible. It was constantly insulting, and the thing about Obama and Clinton, they should have just stayed out, just retire, stay out as they were doing, right? Um, they, it's just everything that they strategically supposedly tried to do, it didn't work. That was the problem. Then you wonder why. You look at, let's see here, when it comes to the results of everything. Let me see what the results are looking like. All right, as of right now, still it looks like there's still. I'm gonna. There we go. Refresh that. So you can see all these things are nearly there when it comes to the reporting. And so, by the time it's said and done, it's a landslide win, right? With these states still, I guess, counting ballots and all that. So you can see the pink, like Arizona, Nevada, um, is there, right? So you have that. So it's supposed to be like well over 300. All right. Let me see something here. Yeah. And so that's what happened there, right? And then when you look at the House and the Senate, all right, it's telling as well about the House and the Senate. Right now, the Senate, they hold an edge over Democrats as well. All right, because again, it's showing that people have had enough of the bullshit. All right, look at the House, um, it's up as well. So it's possible that Republicans can lead the way in everything in terms of running House, Senate, and of course President, because people have had enough and people want America back again. And all that to me is telling of why Kamala lost. All right. So we have terrible policy ideas, terrible track record. All right. And you could date back to her time all the way up into her early days of San Francisco. All right. To me, she hasn't really shown nothing. She talks about prosecuting transnational organizations and blah, 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 blah. But all that stuff she could be doing now, right? Everything that she's saying, she could be doing now, right? Because all she has to do is say, hey, Biden, let's work on this, put it out there. I think if she took action on the campaign trail through Biden to show efforts that she's working on stuff, that probably would have favored things her way. But when you look at all that, it's like, all right, it's not going to happen, right? So that's just what it is, and it just it's just funny how things how things go. Let me see here. Yeah, so it's just funny how things go, and that's why Kamala lost. She lost it all, and supposedly she's actually like I think if I read it right, she's actually overspent by like 20 million now. Yeah, here it is. Kamala Harris campaign ends 20 million in debt after raising over 1 billion. So how can you raise $1 billion and still lose, right? That's the funny thing. The flip flopping, the blame Trump, the insulting of everybody, right? And then when you do all that, still had over $1 billion in your war chest to utilize for campaigning, and you still lose and be in 20 million in debt. That tells you how bad Kamala really is, and you know we're not ready for this kind of president, and people don't want a progressive president. That's just straight up. So that's the bottom line here. That's why Kamala lost the election, and we're gonna continue to look into different things in the upcoming days. We're going to talk about some of the other stuff that's going on, which is pretty interesting. But I wanted to share that with you guys, my thoughts. Um, again, enough is enough. We didn't want an extension of the Biden presidency. I think it would have been even more progressive. And she didn't differentiate herself. She didn't really say, hey, Joe Biden did this, but I'm going to fix this. I'm going to do this. She just kind of said, oh, we're just going to turn the page. We're not going to look to the past. We're going to look forward. Um, okay. Well, what is that going to do? So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. I'll see you next one.